definitely a moment that could have been. Well, first off, like you talked about before, Uncle Sam, Cody himself coming out, I thought it was a pretty sick jacket, pretty sick look. But all in all, like, I don't know if this was the placement of it or what, man. It just seemed like a slow pace to the match. It didn't hit the way we wanted. I guess my expectations were much higher. For what it's worth, Ogogo's third match ever, he wrestled great. I mean, the guy's got charisma. He's got the attitude. He's got the look. And he's a high flyer, too, apparently, with that big frog splash that he threw. So that was unexpected, especially with bruised ribs or whatever, or potentially broken ribs that he had. So that was a nice surprise to see. But I would have liked to see a little bit more false finishes, a little bit closer fought battle, suck the crowd in a little bit more. But obviously the crowd went berserk at the end with Cody going in the crowd and things like that. How could you not? I agree. It did fall flat as well. And it's a bummer because I was so excited for this one and was so excited to see Ogogo get elevated. Granted, he's still green in the game of professional wrestling, but he's showing, star power in numbers for sure.
Oh,
I hate
it's a bummer.
Go ahead, Bonds. Yeah,
it's okay.
It really disappoints me. This felt like a Rocky movie where Rocky is fighting somebody that's only been boxing for 6 months, and then he celebrated like he beat Dolph Lundgren at the end. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it felt for me. And I feel like the factory, what they got Nexus. I said that to SPD. The first thing I said to him was like, "Oh man, factory got Nexus. They're done." Because now QT lost to Cody. At Blood and Guts, QT lost, and now Ogogo lost, and Ogogo was being treated with such care. He was being treated with such care. Again, you don't need to have this. This isn't a necessary match, in my opinion. I get it. It's Memorial Day weekend and Cody's, Captain America.
They leaned into that so hard, that aesthetic. Oh my God. It was like he was the Homelander from The Boys. He the blonde hair and all. He looked like, it was just wow.
Right. And this just wasn't a necessary match. And it stops the factory in their tracks,
Yeah. And I know you're very sensitive about that because you've seen promising groups get their momentum cut out from underneath them on a moment like this. And you're right. I mean, QT Marshall, I was loving the work that he's been doing on the mic. His character work has been absolutely phenomenal. And for him to go down to Cody at Blood and Guts, you're like, okay, well, the leader lost. So that really cuts a lot of their momentum. And then as Bonds talked about, I mean, Ogogo was portrayed as the killer of this group, man. Ogogo was portrayed as the stud of this group, and it wasn't just that he lost, but it was that he lost, and it wasn't what was the story of this match? Normally, Cody's matches have these epic builds, these complex, heart-wrenching stories. I didn't see I was expecting something to happen with Ogogo's eye. I was expecting I was expecting Cody to be challenged to a point where he had to go to his wrestling roots, maybe to adapt to the Ogogo, maybe dominates the beginning of the match with his pure boxing and his punching and power ability, and Cody out of desperation has to come up with a strategy on the spot to avoid a stand-up brawl and then lean more into mat-based wrestling or something like that. There was no overarching story to this match where the psychology was missing. And I felt like it really hurt the product in that regard. It hurt this match in the way that it came across. I picked Ogogo to win this because I felt like this was an opportunity to put that stamp on this guy and say we're going all in with him.
Sure.
I didn't think that Cody needed the win, but I do see the greater aesthetic that they played into. I get that they were trying to push the patriotic angle, the American dream, all of that. And being able to digest the match results and think about it, Ogogo is very green and very, very new to wrestling. And if they are to build off of this, where, he comes out hungrier, that, he basically plays into, Cody, I'm 2-0, like I was 2-0 before I met you, and like really like plays into that he was inexperienced. He learned from this and he wants a rematch, maybe. But I, like you guys, I'm kind of wondering, is this the end of that feud? Is this the end of the family versus the Nightmare family versus the Factory? Because I don't know where they go from here with this one. I really don't.
Well, I don't know if you saw the announcement, but Camarado versus Dustin Rhodes is going to be a bull rope match, which they've been teasing for a while. So that's still getting pushed. But obviously then Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus QT and Ogogo again in a tag. So you still have that being pushed. But how do you salvage it? Where do you go from, even if the Factory get a clean sweep on Dynamite, do you think that gives them momentum back? I mean, it has to.
All that I'm seeing is in Bonds, I can see it in your face. I can tell that you're there's a part of you inside that just wants to just like a volcano come out on this one. All that I'm seeing is a common theme that the Factory can hang with and beat the Nightmare family underlings. They can beat the Gun Club. Ogogo can look like a killer when you throw him in the ring with Austin Gunn. But
sure, he did.
But as soon as they get to Cody level, they're not a threat. And that's the way that they've been presented at this point now. And that's a bummer because, I love what these guys, I love the potential of the Factory.
Of course.
Just looking at the story that AEW has told me, Cody should not be sweating these guys at all anymore. I mean, I mean, to me, it's been pretty convincing. He's proven that he's the top dog. And so, do they continue to be a nuisance to him and his family? It seems like that's going to continue. But when you talk about a believable, compelling storyline, this took a big step back. I felt like even though it would have been an incredibly heelish move by the company almost to have a guy who's been talking trash about the United States for months on end to win on Memorial Day weekend and put Cody down.
Yeah.
That could have been a nuclear heat moment where you can't pay.
Yes, it really could.
You can't buy that kind of heat.
No.
They could, and if Ogogo would have gone in there and left Cody bloody and even like
knockout,
disgusting, like blow his nose on the U.S. flag and throw it in the ring, spit on it, spit on Cody. Do something where you talk about nuclear level heat. That could have catapulted Ogogo and the Factory into an area of detestable guys that would have been really, really compelling and interesting television. Now, I don't see anything coming out of this story that is remotely that engaging. I think the bull rope match between Nick Camarado and Dustin will be a well-fought match. We know that Dustin is a pro, and he's really smart in the ring. And he's always enjoyable when he gets an opportunity to have psychology in a match. But I think that the AEW, this was the one moment where it felt like, man, they really, and me talking about it throughout the show over and over and over again, it felt like AEW was saying, we're going to build younger stars. We're going to build stars and establish names. This could have been an opportunity where they did that, and I just don't think that they did.